It's really nice to meet you. I've been a huge fan of yours since the first time I grabbed a guitar. Was about 12 years. I remember the first video I saw from you. It was the one from Under the Influence. You have all the full stacks and everything. It was so amazing. Yeah, and quite a nice shirt.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really nice shirt. Really, really, really fine. So, well, if you can tell me something about your beginnings, what I'm really interested about is how do you become the shredder you are right now, and how do you went from your early beginnings up to today, let's say, on your guitar playing.
Well, it's an interesting transformation, so to speak. I started playing guitar when I was 15, and it was one of those things where when I started playing guitar, it was just like a light went off, and it was like, okay, I knew that's what I was going to do. So there was never a moment where guitar playing was ever a hobby to me. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to, rearrange everything in my life around this so that I can do this more than anything. And I just started, immersing myself into studying. I tried taking lessons. When I first got my first guitar, I tried taking lessons from a guy at a local guitar shop, and it was, I was 15, and this guy was, trying to teach me how to Melbay Book 1 and position chords, and I was like, man, I'd come in every week and I'd go, check out this new Van Halen riff my friend showed me. And after a month of that, he told my mom, I can't work with this kid anymore, and why don't you try one of my friends, maybe that'll work better. So I tried another month of lessons with this other guy, and I quit after 2 because it was the exact same thing. And a friend of mine had been carrying around an ad in his wallet in high school for a Metal Method guitar lessons, and I told him, I said, dude, if you're not going to use that, let me have it. And I took the little ad that he had ripped out of a magazine and started ordering all these Doug Marks Metal Method lessons, and I pretty much have taught myself from there ever since. Just self-educated pretty much, and just I was obsessed. I would listen to the cassettes in my headphones as I slept, repeating all overnight, 24 hours or whatever while I slept. And I would take my Metal Method books to school and stick them inside my school books and sit in the back of the class, pretend I was studying school, and I'd be really reading guitar books and stuff. And it just continued. And as I developed, kind of the transition point that got me from where I was, so to speak, prior to my instrumental album. Okay, the guitar playing that I did before my instrumental album is what I consider. I got to the level of playing that I considered to be, I'd mastered the 80s style shredding. I could do fast alternate picking, I could do basic one finger tapping, string skipping, all that stuff. And in '96 is when I got my first 7-string guitar, and that's when I decided to go back to the woodshed and reinvent my playing, and that's when I began the metamorphosis of the guitar player that I am now, or became, so to speak. I got the 7-string guitar and I just went back to the woodshed, and it was almost like I reinvented everything. I spent like the first year just working on nothing but legato. I dedicated an entire year to just working on legato. I didn't work on sweep picking, I didn't work on alternate picking, and it was all like really crazy 3 and 4 note per string scales and pentatonics and tapping with multiple fingers on the right hand, and just legato runs. And that's when I started working on instrumental stuff for the CD, and that's kind of where the transformation started, right there with the 7-string guitar. I don't know.
Well, that's really cool. I have a question, because you're a really specific player when it comes to pretty much absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. So when do you decided that guitars aren't the way that you need it to be, like physically, and you started adapting them? Because I have played some of the guitars that you have endorsed. Mm-hmm. Obviously not yours, right? But I have seen I have seen the videos when you were using Jackson. Then I was able to play the Dean models, and I'm hoping one day I'll be getting one of the Ormsby. Those guitars look really sick, man. Like over the top sick.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, man. Is there any way that a Rusty Cooley guitar can be even sicker? So that was the answer. Came from heaven.
Yeah, there you
So when do you think that you became that person? Was it at the same time you transformed from that 80s shredder up to the 7-string and that went on, or you were like that before?
It was way before then. You have to remember, I grew up in the age of Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads, and both Eddie and Randy were both very innovative in their guitars. You know what I mean? Eddie was always in the workshop modifying his guitars, as you know, and Randy was having custom guitars built and things like that. So I was right there with it. I mean, some of my first mods that I ever did were like on an old PV guitar that I had, and I took it out in the garage and I spray painted it and then I pinstriped it, and, you know, and did all like the Van Halen looking thing. And then Yngwie came out and Steve Vai, and then I took the guitar and I painted it fluorescent green, and then I scalloped the fretboard by hand. You know, I sat in my dad's garage when I was a kid and scalloped each fret one at a time painstakingly, you know what I mean? So I've always been into that, and the real moment of where all of my designed guitars really have evolved from was, you know, I had kind of learned how to play on a custom guitar that me and my dad had built. You know, even that, my first real guitar was custom built. It was when we built it, I was a big Randy Rhoads fan, so it was built from Warmoth parts, but it looked like Randy's Jackson, right? And I developed all my chops on that, but I wanted to play more of a Strat style guitar, and every time I would get on a Strat, my hand would hit up here, you know, on the horn, you know, in this area. So I was working at this guitar shop teaching, and one of the guys that worked there was a guitar builder, so we started building what became my first 6-string style Strat.
Oh yeah, I have seen that one on videos.
So this is where the cutaway started. This was in the 80s. This was, I was teaching at this guitar shop, and the guy would be working on the guitar, and I'd come out of a lesson and he'd go, check it out, see if the cutaway's big enough. And I'd go like this, and I'd go, nope, not big enough, keep cutting, you know? and as you can see, you know, it's got the massive cutaway back here as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it started way back then, you know, I mean, all the way up to the Ormsby, these guitars are all an evolution of this.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I have a question. Do you have a story that one of those fall off an amplifier or something like that?
It's this one, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there you are. There you are.
So yeah, this is a funny story. It was when I was in this band called Revolution, and it was actually on my birthday. And we were rehearsing and stuff, and we were having a break, and I took my guitar off and I set it on top of my stack and plugged in still, and I said, all right, nobody run by here and trip on it and knock it off.
First thing.
And a few minutes later, I ran by and tripped over it and knocked it off, hit the chord, and so I did it. And the cool thing about it, well, there's nothing really cool about it, but it's funny because where the guitar, the headstock completely broke off here. And because of the Floyd Rose locking nut,
You were still able to play.
I was still able to tune it up and play the rest of the night. And this little piece right here broke off too. And it took us like 30 minutes to find this little piece. We couldn't find it. It took forever to find that. And so anyway, I took it to the guitar shop with the guy that built it, and he glued it back together. And then several years later, I was practicing in a really cold warehouse in the winter, and I just barely tapped it, and it fell over, and the headstock fell off again. And then my dad fixed it the next time, and he put like dowel rods, Dremels through here, you know, as reinforcement. And then several years later, my son, when he was about 3 or 4, knocked it over and broke it off again. So this thing has been broken off 3 times and glued back, and it's still stronger than ever.
Do you use it from time to time? Well, actually, right now it doesn't have a bridge and everything.
No,
but
it doesn't, because I haven't played it in a while, so I was getting it ready to play, and I was getting some really bad buzzing up here. So I had, interesting enough, the truss rod on this guitar is here, the adjustment.
Oh.
So I have to actually take the neck off the guitar to adjust the truss rod. So
like vintage Fenders.
Yeah, so I just haven't put the tremolo back on since then, because it's a total pain. It's like, I got to put it back on to see if I adjusted the truss rod correctly. It didn't have to back off and, you know, process all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate that kind of thing, but
But I
yeah.
have to tell you, the neck is really well made, and as long as I've had the guitar, which is probably since like 1989 or something like that, I've maybe only had to have the truss rod adjusted 1 or 2 times in all those years.
Oh, okay.
It's that solid, you know what I mean? So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And another question about guitars. Is there an actual guitar that you always have wanted, but that and a specific one, right?
yeah, I mean, I always wanted, when I was younger, I always wanted one of the Universes, the Steve Vai Universe guitars with the swirl paint job.
Oh, okay.
And I always wanted, I mean, you know, okay, so hypothetically speaking, if I could collect guitars,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, I would love to have one of Randy's original Jackson, the white one,
Yeah.
the Concord. Love to have one of those. I'd love to have one of his V's, the black with polka dots. You know, like to have one of Eddie's guitars. You know, all the classics, man.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
But I mean, that's
Uh-huh.
you know, that's what I wanted when I was younger. I mean, I eventually did have a couple of Universe guitars. I went on to endorse Ibanez, but I never had the swirl paint job. But now I got these guys, man. Which these are the
yeah, man. Oh my god. That's even more amazing, man.
coolest headstock in the world, right?
Yeah, it's the coolest one. It's like you can butcher a vampire.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Somebody with this headstock.
That's right. That's right. You can be a part of maybe a Ron Turn movie or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's so amazing. Let me ask you, what was the music you were? Well, let me go ahead and build a question.
Sure.
When you were starting, when you were at high school and everything, you had your group of friends. They also played guitar.
I had 1 or 2 friends that played guitar, and we all hung out, you know, and that was, you know, like 3 of us, you know.
Yeah. Were they on the same thing?
Yeah, we all listened to the same thing, like the same guitar players, stuff like that, yeah.
Okay.
Which was, you know, I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
No, good. You go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, we all listened to the same stuff. We were all into, you know, I was always a big Randy Rhoads guy. You know, I loved Eddie Van Halen, but Rhoads was always my number one. And then, you know, then Yngwie Malmsteen came out, and you know, it was like, boy, that changed my life forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when we all kind of listened to that stuff, you know, Rhoads, Van Halen, Malmsteen, Vai, Satriani, you know, Holdsworth. I was into Holdsworth really early on.
Okay.
It was cool.
Well, yeah, I can figure out for your stretches and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have.
see these pictures of Holdsworth in magazines, and he would be doing an ad for a guitar or something. He'd be holding his hand like something like this, and I'd go home and I'd like look where H finger was and try to play that chord, and you know.
Man, that guy was insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you: is there something that you actually have like that you listen or you ever wonder when will I be able to play it? Like right now with the technique quality and performance you have.
From a guitar player's standpoint, I don't know, man. I've never really thought about, you know, not being able to play something to a certain extent. I mean, usually, I mean, you know, if you just, I believe that no matter who it is, me, you, anybody, if you want something bad enough and you're willing to work for it, you can have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't ever look at anything like, you know, I can't wait until I can do this, or hopefully one day I'll be able to do this. Because I believe anything's attainable if you're willing to put in the work and time for it. The things that I would personally, you know, hope to be able to play someday, or as good as, would be not guitar players. It would be violinists and pianists. I'm a huge fan of classical violin and piano stuff, and those guys, the really old dudes, you know, Chopin,
Yeah.
Liszt, Paganini, those dudes, those are the guys that I would strive to be like, in you know, I don't know, somewhere be in the ballpark, you know, which that's pretty impossible, but you know, you can hope, you
Yeah.
can try. You know,
Yeah,
they're
you
like
still have your
legends, yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what I would like to do, you know, be able to play with that level, with the same tonal qualities and the same intonation and vibrato and those sorts of things, you know. And of course, Holdsworth, you know.
Yeah, yeah, the more modern representation of a massive virtuoso.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, my question pretty much came from sometimes, let's say I listen to something. It happens a lot whenever I listen to old Jeff Loomis kind of things, like from the two records, two solo records, and some of the early, no, some of the late Nevermore things, and I get so overwhelmed. I'm so amazed about the technique, the quality, the sound, pretty much everything that you have described. And I'm pretty sure that's something that was pretty much like a driver to you at some point in your entire career. I'm pretty sure you still listen.
Oh yeah, I still listen to guitar players, but it's not a technique thing for me anymore. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, you know, I mean, you reach a certain level of technique, and then when you hear other guitar players doing things, it's not as impressive anymore. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
I'm kind of in the mind frame nowadays where it's like, if I hear another guitar player play fast, it's like, so what? What are you doing with it? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's been done to death.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with speed at all. It's like anybody can play fast. You can train a monkey to change a tire in your car. Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
definitely.
So it's really what you're doing with it musically. So technique is great, but what are you doing with it? You know, that's kind of where I'm at now with it. But the things that inspired me and drove me to play to this, to the way I do now, are guitar players like Sean Lane and Holdsworth and you know, in the beginning, Randy Rhoads and Yngwie and Jason Becker and Marty Friedman. You know, any of the guys that were on Shrapnel Records back in the day, you know, Greg Howe,
Yeah.
Darren Householder, Joey Tafola, Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore, you know, all those guys, you know, Demiola. I mean, Demiola wasn't on Shrapnel, obviously, but, you know, he was.
Yeah, it was pretty much the beginning.
Yeah, he was one of the real pioneers, you know. And if you ask any great guitar player that came out of that era that can pick, Demiola is one of their favorites. You know what I mean? So it started, I think that kind of started with Al, not to say that he was the first guy to pick fast. I mean, look at Django Reinhardt. That dude could pick crazy fast, too, you know. So just, you know, it was, I don't know what draws me to that style of playing. That's just what inspires me and motivates me. You know, I like, you know, that. I used to race motorcycles and, you know, dirt bikes and stuff and bicycles, and I drive fast. I can't help it, you know. I think maybe it's just part of my DNA.
Yeah, you live at the limit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't explain it. I don't know why. I mean, it's why certain people gravitate towards blues or funk or fusion or whatever. Maybe, you know, that's what makes the world go round. You know, it's all the differences.
Exactly. Let me ask you, you're a great teacher because you have launched a huge amount of videos and resources for guitar learning, guitar developing, and with a special focus on how you develop your technique, how do you play this, how do you play on that position, and those kind of things, which I find really, really interesting. So how would you say that your approach as a teacher has evolved from when you started up to this time, and what are the focuses that you like the approaches that you are taking that have changed? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. First of all, thank you. I appreciate that. And secondly, my teaching style evolved from where I learned from, which was Metal Method and Doug Marks. Doug Marks was a great teacher, and it was full of very insightful information, not just on how to play the guitar, but how to approach it, and how to set goals, and you know, how to practice schedules and things like that. So very early on, there was many things that he said that really stuck with me, and it's like, you know, and I'm not quoting verbatim, but it's something along the lines of, you know, when you have to teach things and present things with the level of that when you're talking to someone, you have to understand that they don't know anything. So things that you take for granted, that you know like the back of your hand, these people don't know at all, your students.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they're coming in from ground zero. So you can't approach it like, oh yeah, well, it's just this, you should know this, you know, and just play whatever, you know what I mean? So you've got to be able to think at that level and break it down so anybody at any level can understand what you're talking about. And there was some experiences that I had in school that made me the kind of the teacher I am as well. Is that, you know, when I was in school, I didn't learn the way everybody else did, so I had a harder time. And you know, as I grew up, I learned about teaching from different resources that talk about, well, not everybody learns the same way, and that's a big problem with educators. That if you don't learn a certain way, then you're labeled, you know, slow, or you put it in a different class or whatever. Which that's not the case. You have to be able to reach everyone. So as a guitar teacher, I make it a point to be able to teach the same thing 3 or 4 different ways, so that no matter who I'm talking to, no matter how they learn, they'll understand it. So if I've got to explain the same thing 3 to 4 different ways to finally find out how that person learns, well, then I'm going to do that. You know, and I mean, I have students that sometimes will apologize to me, and I'm like, don't apologize. You know, it's like, well, I'm sorry you have to work with me and I don't get it and stuff like that. It's like, that's my job, to help you so that you can get it. You know, and I look at that as a challenge. You know what I mean? So I work harder for that. You know, so.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Since when did you start doing lessons, and when did that evolve into doing video material?
I think, you know, I like to do what my guitar heroes do. So when I knew that, you know, for example, I started teaching guitar because I knew that Randy Rhoads taught. So I thought, well, Randy teaches, I got to teach. You know.
Yeah.
So then people started putting out instructional videos. So I was like, well, I got to do this too. You know. So it was a natural progression for me to do that kind of stuff. I had, you know, I've been teaching since I was a senior in high school, and and I've done different television things. I think the first thing that I ever did on TV was for a friend of mine that was a student at college, Sam Houston or something like that. And he had a TV show, an Access Channel TV show, and he had me come on and teach a lesson, and I did that. And then later on, I had a friend that actually had a TV show on a national network here in Houston that he did every week, called World Class Guitar Techniques, and he had me come on and do a couple of shows for him, and that ended up turning into a lot of the material that ended up being on my Extreme Pentatonics from Chops from Hell instructional. So, you know, it just kind of evolved from there. It went from the point of, you know, I did a couple things on TV to, you know, the invention of the internet, and then starting to see people online doing stuff. I discovered the Chops from Hell website and saw that people were doing stuff on there, and it was like, okay, well, all you got to do is set up your webcam, or not your webcam back then, it was your camcorder, and sit in front of it and teach your stuff. And then, you know, and it was really easy for me at the time to just set it up and sit in front of it, because Chris at Chops from Hell, all I had to do was send him the cassette or the VHS tape, you know, of me doing it, and he would go through and do all the painstaking editing and stuff like that. So it was really easy for me, because all I had to do was just play guitar, you know, and that's a funny little story too, because of the way the world has evolved. You know, nowadays guitar players have to do everything. You have to learn how to play the guitar very well. You have to learn how to do social media very well. You have to learn how to shoot and edit videos very well. You have to learn how to record very well. And, you know, I'm not from that era, so it's been difficult for me because I'm stubborn and I just want to play guitar. Okay. I want somebody else to do that. But unfortunately, in this era, it's not really a feasible thing, you know, to have to go pay everybody to do all these things for you.
That's right. It's a bunch of work and a bunch of money as well.
Right. So it's like, you know, I feel like I'm forced into a corner that I have to now evolve into that as well, which I am, you know, slowly but surely. So I'm getting more on top of it, and you know, I was originally one of the first internet guys to evolve. You know. And I mean, that's, if it wasn't for the internet, I really, you know, who knows where I would be now. I mean, you know, I'd probably still be right here teaching guitar, but you know. That's
more on a local level.
Yeah, the internet is what got me known on a global level. So I have that to be thankful for. But at the same time, I've done this myself exclusively from the beginning. So I reached a point of burnout, you know, in the last 5 or 6 years or so, where I just was like, man, I hate social media. I don't want to be online. I don't want to have to make posts every day, and I don't want to have to do all that kind of stuff. So I kind of just faded out of the scene for a little while and just making random posts here and there just because I was so burnt out. But you know, recently I've within the last year or so, year or two maybe, just I've been trying to push harder, and I'm really gearing up now to start doing a lot of things and get my presence back out there more in the mainstream, like it was at one time. You know, man, you just get burnt out after a while. You know what I mean? It's like too much is enough is enough. You gotta come up for air and breathe a little bit and live. You know, so
Yeah, that's a good advice. Right now, it falls right where I need it. So
Yeah.
it's sometimes it gets pretty overwhelming. Like social media right now, it's too much. It's just too much because you have to set up videos, then you have to put up some pictures, and then you have to prepare this, do that, and then if you don't do it like a couple of days, then you fall back on the presence.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy, man. You know, it's you know, I always said that the music industry is like a freight train coming down the tracks, and if you don't get on and ride it, you better get out of the way because it's going to leave you behind. You know, it's pretty much a real thing. You know, you have to stay on top of it, and it's a 24/7 thing. I've said that many times. It's like if I didn't have to sleep, I could work 24 hours a day because there's always something to be done. You know, from practicing to writing and recording to promotion, social media, making videos. I mean, it's just like it's an endless job, really.
That's right. There's always something you can do. Let me ask you. You've been in so many projects, man, and I remember watching Guitar Asylum or Guitar Asylum.
Or Asylum.
And yeah, exactly. Man, that was something really amazing for me, and it was funny that you said before that I watch my heroes, and I said, well, I gotta do whatever they do, right? So that's pretty much what I started to do when I started watching your videos, Jeff Lubitz, Jason Becker's, all those guys. And I remember this is a fun story. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but it's a story. So watching your video of the Austrian death metal machine, I'm pretty sure, and you start playing with the Arnold, and man, that solo it was sick, and the take that you guys got, it was pretty much the nicest one. So Bill, I started building presence and trying to see what I can do. Like, okay, I'm gonna be doing lessons and then some videos and that kind of thing. But I have always wondered when did you start with the interviews? How hard was it, and what can you say about it?
Yeah, well, okay, again, when I started doing this stuff, it was really before the internet had taken off, or it was right in its very, very groundwork, you know what I mean, the very beginning of it all. So this is, you know, when I first started doing this, I was mailing out cassettes still before CDs, you know, so we're talking about like 96, 97, 98.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Around that time, I was making demos, and I was literally going to the post office, because this is before you were sending press packs and things online. You know, so I was literally going to the post office 3 or 4 times a day, or not a day, a week, you know, mailing cassettes and then CDs finally to anybody and anyone that I could get to listen to me. So I would scour guitar magazines, and I'd look in there for like the editors and their phone numbers and things like that to find, and I'd just start cold calling people, or find their email address and email them, you know, after that became a thing. And you know, basically it was me just banging on everybody's door saying, hey, listen to me, you know, check it out, you know. But the most important advice that I can give you on that is, if you're going to do something like that, you better have something to offer. You know, you can't go expecting somebody to give you an endorsement, or expecting somebody to interview you or want to help you if you're not helping yourself. You know what I mean? So you got to be putting in the work to make somebody want to listen to you. It's like, okay, great. Well, I want an endorsement. Okay, well, awesome. When you call up these guys to talk to them, what are you going to tell them? Why are they going to want to listen to you? Why do they want to give you a guitar, or give you a break on a guitar to give you an introductory endorsement? So you better have something to do. So I was always working constantly, working on something, you know, practicing writing, working towards an instrumental album. So there was always something on the plate, doing instructional stuff. I mean, the first break that I got in Guitar Player magazine wasn't from an album or a review from a demo or anything like it. Magazines don't review demos. That's an online thing. That's not a magazine thing, right? So when I got my first spot in Guitar Player magazine, it was from my Chops from Hell instructional straight guitar manifesto, which that opened the doors to them eventually reviewing my first album, the Lion Music release album. And that turned into, hey, do you want to do a guest column for us? And then that turned into, hey, do you want to write your own column for us? You know what I mean? So it's step by step. You've got to get your foot in the door, but then you got to keep coming back with stuff that makes them want to listen to you and give them. You got to give them a reason for them to want to, take the time out of their day, because you got to imagine the submissions and the amount of people that are trying to do the same thing that I'm doing or you're doing or anybody else is. So you've got to really, you've got to have something to offer, and you've got to be, it's really about continuing to work. What are you doing? That's what it's always about. What are you doing now? What are you going to be doing? Because, you've got to be present.
Yeah, you got to be awake. You got to be there. And you don't have to fall behind.
It's not like, hey, well, I don't know, man, I'm just kind of sitting around right now. Maybe I'm thinking about putting a band together, or I'm going to start working on an album, or, it's like, okay, well, call me when you got something going.
That's right.
And, fortunately or unfortunately, that's the way it is. That's the nature of the beast. So, when you are ready to that point to try to get in a magazine or try to get some interviews set up, you've got to have something that's going to make those people want to listen to you. So when I started getting interviews online, it was because people were reviewing. I started submitting my demos for demo reviews and stuff like that, and those demo reviews would then turn into an interview and things like that, and then offer to do a column. It all just, it's a chain reaction, so to speak. So if you've got something, if they're willing to listen to your demo or your first album or whatever it might be that you're presenting, an instructional product, music, you've got to have something going. It doesn't matter how good you are if you're not doing anything.
That's right.
If you're not doing anything, then why does somebody want to take the time to put you in a magazine or an interview or whatever? What are you doing? Well, nothing. Cool, great, interview's over.
I made a pot of rice right now. Or something like that.
Man, I've met guitar players, and I've overheard guitar players talking about, well, I want to get endorsements, and why does he get all these deals, and why is, I've heard people in the past say that behind my back or overheard things, and it's like, well, I'm doing something. You think you're good? Well, that's great. Everybody's good, to a certain extent, but do something with it. People don't just hand out endorsements and guitars and gear for whatever reason. Just because you're good, you don't get stuff for free. You know what I mean? You've got to be doing something. My, even my family, my kids and stuff, they would get upset when I'd have boxes of stuff delivered, to the house, and it would be, whether it was clothing or gear or stuff. And he's like, man, it's always Christmas for you, Dad. And it's like, they're always like, you get all this free stuff. And it's like, son, it's not free. And it's not free because I worked my ass off to get to that point. You know what I mean? Nothing's free. You pay for it some way or another.
Exactly. You have to pay with your image, with your work. You have to put all the attention on those brands, and it's a commitment, man. It's a commitment. Let me ask you. In perspective of when you were starting. How do you choose your projects right now? Because I'm pretty sure that you evaluate whatever thing you are going to do, based on the reaction and your experience, right? And I'm pretty sure before, since you were telling me about, you were just knocking on doors, trying to get the word around that I am Rusty Cooley and I'm really cool, right? So. So how do you choose your projects?
Well, first of all, it's got to be something that I like. You know what I mean? So, you mean like guest appearances and things like that, or what exactly?
Well, I like the things you do. Like let's say right now you're with Reckoning Day, right? Reckoning Day.
Yeah, Day of Reckoning.
Day of Reckoning. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No worries.
Day of Reckoning. Yeah, and I heard that you were called to do an audition or something for Megadeth?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I was, had the gig. I was told to start learning the album, before I even auditioned, and I was gonna do it, and I was at this point in my life where I had been divorced for about 4 years, and my daughter asked to come live with me, and I said, well, of course, I'm not gonna tell her no. She's my daughter, and she was just turning 16 and stuff, and she's gonna be doing driver's ed and things like that, and I thought, okay, well, great. If I take this Megadeth gig, I'm gonna have to send her back to live with her mother, which is not the worst thing in the world, But I mean, obviously, she wanted to live with me for a reason.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna be gone on the road touring, playing somebody else's music, and I had to factor a few things in. It's like, what am I gonna be doing in 10 years from now? And in 10 years from now, when I look back, what am I gonna remember? So, it boils down to just being there for your family first. That's more important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. And what about the band that you were with today? I was seeing all the promotions, like the expectation that you were building towards it, and I was like, my God, Rusty Cooley, it's in something, right? So I gotta hear it, and then I started to put around my head on.
Yeah, so it's interesting too, because it's like I did the instrumental album, right? And funny enough, I'm not sure a lot of people know this, that really when I did the instrumental album, I was doing it more as a break from playing in regular bands, because at the time when I decided to do my instrumental album, right before that I was in a band called Dominion, which ended up having a couple of members that ended up being in Outworld. But at the time, I was just kind of fed up with the whole local music scene and playing with bands, and then dealing with all the different personalities and drama of being in a band. And I said, just screw this, basically, and I'm going to go back to the woodshed and reinvent my playing, and I'm going to do an instrumental album, and I'm going to go back to teaching, because at the time I wasn't teaching. I'd taken a year or two off, and so at that point I was like, all right, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to start over from ground zero, and I'm going to teach again. I'm going to reinvent my guitar playing. I'm going to play 7-string, and I'm going to do an instrumental album. And at the same time, my son was born, so I was taking care of him and playing and practicing and teaching and all that stuff all at the same time. So it was a lot, but it was very very eye-opening and refreshing, and it was a change that I needed. So the point being to that, I only did the instrumental album as a break from being in a band. I never intended to be an instrumental guitar player. It was just something I wanted to do because a lot of my guitar heroes had done that, kind of like that ongoing theme that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So, but fate have it, when I did that instrumental album, it was at the right time and lined up perfectly with the internet. So the first thing that people heard from me outside of Houston was Rusty Cooley, the instrumental guitar player, right? So that's what everybody's first impression of me was, when that was just a break, an alteration from being in a band. Because I never wanted to be an instrumental guitar player. I wanted to always be in a band. I like playing in a band. I like having the band environment. I like working with other individuals and writing and co-writing and arranging music and making it together. So after I did the instrumental album, I went and I did Outworld, which I loved that band. And unfortunately, due to internal issues, the band didn't make it. We should have. I mean, we had a great record, 2 records, and we were set to get on a tour bus, not in a van, and things just didn't work out with some band members. And so along that journey, I had started listening to heavier music. And with Outworld, it's in my mind, no matter how heavy a riff that I wrote, with the guitars, with the keyboards and vocals of that style that Outworld was, it seemed like it's kind of sucked the heavy right out of it. You know what I mean? So when Outworld didn't work out, I thought, well, I'm gonna go try this now. See how this works out. And if this doesn't work out, then I'll go back and do what I was doing before. And so that's where Day of Reckoning came from. It came from, when Outworld didn't make it and we broke up, that I was just gonna go heavier. So at that point in my mind, it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna kind of simplify things. I'm gonna do 2 guitars. The other guitar player's role is strictly just supportive, rhythm guitar, harmony stuff, things like that. I'm going to do all the writing, which I've always done, but I arrange the music with the other band members, but I write all the riffs. And I'm going to go with a different style of vocals. I'm going to try this heavy guttural stuff, and I was lucky enough to find a singer that can actually sing the guttural stuff and sing clean vocals as well. So it's a mixture of two, but I think it's really been shocking to a lot of people, because there are a lot of the reaction that I get is like, wow, that's really heavy. It's like, well, yeah, it is heavy, but
it is really heavy. It is really
it's
heavy.
not like the heaviest thing you've ever heard. It's not like Meshuggah heavy or, it's like progressive heavy.
And it's aggressive.
Yeah, it's very aggressive as well. So that's kind of, where I'm at now doing the Day of Reckoning thing, but it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been, received open-armed, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people are resistant. They want the Rusty Cooley instrumental stuff, or they want Rusty Cooley Outworld or whatever. And I get that, man. I understand it, because I'm the same way with my guitar heroes. I want Paul Gilbert, Racer X Street Lethal.
Yeah.
I want Yngwie Malmsteen, Rising Force first album, or Alcatraz. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, you can't have that anymore. When I look at it as a whole, if you take my instrumental album, you take the 2 albums I did with Outworld, you take the Day of Reckoning stuff, and if you pulled everything out and just heard the guitar and the drums, there wouldn't be a lot different. You know what I mean? Because I'm still writing rhythm guitar pretty much the same way, maybe a little bit heavier, not a lot. The drums are still pretty much the same kind of drumming style. The bass is still following what it does. What's really changed is the element of having keyboards or not having keyboards, and having constant clean singing versus non-constant clean singing.
That's right.
But the core of it, if you break it down to the core foundation, it's still me. I'm still doing what I've always done. So I don't know, I don't know why some people don't hear that, but I've really noticed that a lot with individuals through the years, because I was the same guy that came from this standpoint of, like, if I'm listening to something and maybe I don't like something about it, I'll still listen to it because of what I do like about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
You will just focus on whatever you like instead of complaining.
So, I can't tell you how many, no matter what band I've been in my entire life, somebody always has something to say something about the singer. Oh man, I'd like your band so much more if you had a different singer. That's every band I've been in, that's what they've said. Different people. It's like, okay, I'm doing instrumental stuff. Oh, I'd like your band more if you had a different singer. Right? From Outworld to Day of Reckoning, to even before that, Dominion, Revolution, no matter what, somebody's always had something to say about the singer. It's like, well, I don't get it, man. It's like, if you don't like the singer, don't listen to the singer. Listen to what you do like about it. I've always been able to do that myself. It's like, I'll focus in on what I do like. I'm not going to stop listening to something because of one element. Oh, I don't like that band's bass player, so I'm not going to listen to the band at all.
Yeah, just like going to a restaurant and saying, nah, I don't like there because they have Coca-Cola, right?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna eat there. Right. You just don't drink Coke.
Right. Beat it, man.
That's simple, man. Right. So I've never been able to get that, and unfortunately, a lot of people in this world are like that. They can't tune out what they don't like. It's kind of like when you first start teaching a beginning guitar player or whatever, and you tell them to just listen to the drummer. And when they're listening to an entire song mixed and produced, people that aren't used to listening to an instrument by itself have a hard time just listening to just the drummer, or just listen to just the bass line. Can you hear the bass line? No, I can't hear the bass guitar at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like you have to isolate it and help people begin to hear those things. So I don't think a lot of people have that kind of ability to tune into each instrument. And a lot of people that aren't musicians, they can't focus on anything but the vocals. So if you don't like the singing, then you don't like the band, which the band might be great. I don't know, man. I've never heard a band that the singers. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are some pretty bad singers out there, but
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
Right. Yeah. So
there's a few.
I don't know. I think that's where I'm at, and I think this question I probably went way around answering.
No problem. It's what I'm really more interested in is your entire point of view. How do you develop the things you say, right? Because how you play is just a reflection of how you are, right? It's just a reflection of how you think, how you feel, and how you do. So it's really amazing to be able to have a conversation with you and just to see how do you develop your entire ideas, try to go from one point to the other, and sometimes at some point you can say that you went apart, but it actually makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, and I like a lot of different things too. I can't say who this is right now because it's not, it hasn't been released, but I just did 2 guest acoustic solos for a friend of mine's solo acoustic album. You know, so that's a new thing for me as well. I mean, I've always been an acoustic guitar player, but this is my official debut on acoustic guitar, my first recording ever, doing solo work on an acoustic guitar.
Ah, it's really great. Metal or nylon?
It's nylon, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, that's another aspect of my playing that I could see myself doing an all-instrumental acoustic album at some point. You know, I'm a huge fan of like Struns and Farah and Demiola and De Lucia and McLaughlin and Del Castillo, guys like that. You know, so always been into that stuff and could very much do that at some point. You know, that'll be another thing. And then when I do that, somebody's going to say, man, I wish you were doing instrumental electric guitar stuff. You know, or, man, when are you going to put Outworld back together? It's like, well, everybody else agrees to do it. You know, I'm there. I'll be there today. You know, I loved Outworld, man, and it's unfortunate. But Day of Reckoning is where I'm at now, and I think this band has a lot of great potential. It's just, man, we're in a weird time right now. I mean, you know, we can't tour. We can't, you know, stuff's not released. It's like everybody, even the biggest of touring artists, are stuck at home having to do what other guitar players have done, you know, for their entire career. You know,
exactly.
Online stuff. So it's in a way, it's kind of leveled the playing field in a way, because by taking away touring from the big artists, which is very unfortunate because that's their source of income, it's forced them to play at the same level that everybody else is playing at. Your everyday Joe, kid next door, man, he's online posting and streaming stuff. Well, that's where the biggest of the rock stars are at now too. So it's leveled the playing field. So
yeah,
you know,
same stage.
Yeah, we're all at the same level now. You know, fair or not fair, it is what it is, and you have to make the best of it. You know, so
how have you been handling? Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I just was saying it's an interesting place. So,
yeah, to be able to adapt, that's the thing, right?
Exactly.
How have you been adjusting your way of life to this entire situation? How have you been feeling the changes from what used to be the recording era of guitars, when you have to pretty much set up everything? Do you remember the times you have to go to the studio and take hours and hours just to see where you will be placing the microphone and the sticky floor and that kind of thing? And now pretty much everything is just at the touches at one touch, right? So how do you feel by that changes with coronavirus and the entire pandemic? And another question, how do you feel about modern metal?
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as the coronavirus goes, it hasn't really affected me too much. And what I mean by that is, well, I've been practicing social distancing for a long time. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty good at that already, because I'm not, you know, I'm not a big, I mean, I like being social when I want to be social. And I don't like being social. So for me, I don't like to go out a lot of times, because if I go out, I just want to go watch whatever I'm going to go watch.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be necessarily all the interaction from other people. You know what I mean? And that's hard to do. So I don't go out a lot, honestly. I stay at home and my whole life is pretty much teaching now, you know, and recording and writing and learning how to do all this internet stuff. So, you know, to wrap up the concept with COVID, you know, I don't go out a lot. So it really hasn't affected me too much. The greatest effect that it's had on my life is, well, I had a little bit of, you know, because I do private lessons in person with students, and I do online stuff too. So I was a little bit afraid of what was going to happen, you know, if I was going to lose all my students that were coming to the house, you know, which they all changed over to Skype. But then again, it's like, well, financially, if nobody can go to work and stuff like that, people are going to quit lessons because they can't pay for lessons. You know, so I had a little bit of a scare at first with that, you know, because I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But fortunately enough, things actually picked up for me, because more people were sitting around and they still were working and working from home. So then they had the extra time to, well, hey, I can finally take lessons now. You know, so it's actually picked up a little bit for me. So that's been a benefit from it, due to all of the other unfortunate circumstances of it. So I've made out pretty well there. The biggest inconvenience has been going to the grocery store and going out and getting supplies and things like that, you know, having to wear a mask or people trying to tell you to wear a mask and, you know, just that whole, I'm so over it, you know what I mean? I'm done with it, you know, it needs to just go away.
Yeah, I feel
you know what I mean? I'm just tired of it, you know, the whole thing is just stupid. You know, the politics involved in all that BS. Don't even get me started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I'm feeling afraid.
yeah. So I'm just like, you know, let's just get on with our lives again. You know. So aside from the COVID thing, you know, with like recording and stuff like that, you know, there still are the days of going in and doing all of that stuff are still very much a thing. You know, maybe not at the moment with all the COVID stuff going on, but it's still happening. But with the technology that we have nowadays, you know, a lot of times it's not necessary to go into a big studio to do that because we have things that are, you know, technology that sounds close to as good. You know, I mean, I wouldn't want to record my own album with a plug-in. I would much rather record it with an album, but you can make a good recording with plugins or things like the Axe Effects or a Kemper, you know, going direct. I mean, there's technology there that you can get it, and unless you've got just this amazing ear, a lot of times you can't tell the difference. I mean, a lot of people can, you know, diehard guitar players and musicians can hear subtle differences and things like that, but your average fan can't. You know, it's just like a beginning student can't pick out a bass player in the mix of the whole band or things like that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a lot of people are going to be able to tell the difference between a Marshall and a Marshall plugin, you know, or something like that. But that's you know, that's an artist's thing. It's our own integrity. You know, I want to hear a real amp mic'd up because I can hear the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if anybody else can hear the difference. I can hear it. You know.
Yeah, it's for you at some level. It's just for you.
It is. It's for you at many levels. So it's you know, there's a blessing and a curse in everything. You know, it's awesome to have this new technology, but then this, and it's awesome to be able to go in and record in a real studio, but then you have this. You know, there's always something. There's always the pros and cons of everything. You know, so at some point you just have to settle up with it in your own mind and in, you know, your own personality. You know, because it's an ego thing sometimes. It's a personality thing, or it's a preference, or it's a principle. You know, I do this because it's based on the principle of what's right and what's wrong, or things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a matter of principle. I'm gonna use that amp instead of that plugin, and that's my standpoint.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, things like that.
I remember one experience. I remember that I had one experience a couple of months ago. It came one guy and he asked me, "Can I record some guitars at your place? Because I have a few things that you can use to record something, right?" Mm-hmm. So he told me, well, "Okay, so we are gonna set up." I set up a DI box so we can have a DI. Then through it goes to the amp and mic and everything. And he says, "No, I'm just gonna use the DI signal." And oh, okay. And what do you wanna use it with? I have this plugin of the 5150. Oh, okay, that's great. But I have the 5150, you know.
Right.
And then he says, "No. I think the plugin it sounds more tight and believable." And you know, and then I said, "Oh, okay, well." So let me go ahead and see and get my head around. Let me see. So the plugin you have, it sounds more believable as a 5150 than the actual 5150.
Right. That's great, man.
And he says to me, and he looks at me, and it doesn't do that much sense if you put it that way. He says,
"Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I'm just stating the facts on the table.
Right.
But if you want to do that, that's okay. Right. But I assure you, let me go ahead and at least send you the preamp out so you can use IRs, because IRs are great.
Yeah.
But I much rather to get a preamp through an IR, right? So he says, "Oh, okay, yeah. So, but can I still have the IR, the DI signal?"
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, you don't deserve it.
Right? Yeah. Hey, man, I've got a real 5150. No, I think the plugin's more believable. you know.
Yeah, yeah. It cost me about $14.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, and I know the amplifier it's about $1,500, but I'm pretty sure those $14 are all well paid for.
Yes, it's top notch right there, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and that happens a lot. There's a meme around that says, in somewhere in the world, there's one kid using an XFX through a 5150 emulating a 5150.
That is a fact, man. That is happening. You know, I've recently got a Kemper, and on the Kemper, some of the profiles are XFX profiles of a different amp. Why would you own a Kemper and want to make it sound like an XFX, which is sounding something else to begin with?
Yeah, it's like grabbing your McDonald's soda to fill it at Burger King or something like that.
Right?
Man.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Yeah, so we're getting simulations of simulations. You know, it's weird.
Well, that's the tone. That's the tone. Yeah, it's by sound, because that's another thing. Yeah, no, I want to find my sound, and then they get the simulation of an amplifier that was simulated by another thing. And I always come to the same thing, that if you really wanna have your sound, why don't you use the insane channel of line 6? Nobody's using it.
Yeah, right. That's funny. You know, when you're talking about finding your sound, it's very similar to somebody saying, I want to find my style. You know, I have students that'll come in and it's like, man, I'm really working on trying to find my sound and my style. And my biggest thing to say to them is like, stop trying to find it. You already have it. You know what I mean? If you can't work on finding something, you know what I mean? You just have to, it has to develop. You have to nurture it. It can't be something you focus on, really. I mean, if you focus on trying to find something, how can you ever find something you don't know what you're trying to find?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you just got to let the music fall where it falls. You can't control that. You are going to be who you are, no matter what. It's like tone. For example, me and a friend of mine were having a discussion on amps, and my buddy Carl, he's got a bunch of amps, got a bunch of high-end boutique amps, and he was telling me, he was like, yeah, man, one day I was setting up my stuff, and I recorded the same phrase on every amp, and I noticed that when I listened back to the recording that everything almost sounded exactly the same. Because basically, no matter which amp he was playing on, he had the sound in his head, and he was trying to dial that into every amp. So it doesn't matter if you play a Wagner or a Mesa Boogie or a Marshall or whatever, you have this certain innate sound in you that you can't do anything about. That when you dial that amp in, you're looking for that sound. That's why we have dials on them, for everybody to find
Exactly.
that sound. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really matter what amp, it does matter what amp you play on to a certain extent, because some amps are going to dial into the sound that you're hearing more easily than other amps. You know, it's like trying to get a high gain sound out of a clean amp. Well, no matter what you do to that clean amp, unless you put a distortion pedal on it, it's not going to sound that way.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about high-end, high-gain amps next to each other, you know, you're going to be able to dial in something relatively close on each one of those. Now, some of them are going to dial in better because those certain amps might be dialed into that certain frequency that you're hearing better. But in the end of the day, it doesn't matter to a certain extent. You have that in you, what you're trying to find.
Yeah, I believe that's more of a product thing, that they make you believe that pedals and gear and everything, it has your tone, right, and you have to find it by purchasing it, right?
Well, you know, this chair that I'm sitting in right now, if you buy this chair, it'll make you play faster.
Well, I give you $10,000 right now for it.
Yeah, it'll make you play faster, but you can't have it for sale. It's the chair of destiny.
Well, yeah. Do you know if I will be able to run faster if I get that chair?
Well, no. If you buy these tennis shoes that I'm wearing, you'll be able to run faster too.
Okay. Can I get
these pants will get you more chicks?
Yeah. Well, that's
Where'd you get those? Yeah.
Yeah, at the Rusty Cooley pant shop.
That's right. People just want instant gratification. They want, if you tell somebody that, hey man, this chair is going to make you play faster, they're going to go buy that chair because they think they're going to play faster. You know,
Yeah.
oh, these strings.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I don't know if you have. Well, I'm pretty sure that you have, but there's always someone asking. Could you give me tips on how to play faster? And I'm like, well, do you play slow? Then play faster, right? So, do you have any techniques on being a shredder? Well, like wanting to be a shredder, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Right. So, because you can't be something that you haven't heard of, right?
Right. Yeah.
I remember I go back and I remember when I first hear Metallica's Kill 'Em All, and I hear all the solos that they recorded, and some people say that those ones are Dave Mustaine, some other people says Lloyd, I don't know, I don't remember the name of the actual first guitar player, and then Kirk Hammett's, that's a huge dispute. But I remember hearing them and I was like, man, this is insane. And that amount of reverb that they have, and it sounded the guitar so amazing. And I was like 2 years before I started to play guitar, and I was so amped up about it. Then I started to hearing, when I first started playing guitar, I started hearing Testament and Alex Skolnick. Playing, and then I started to corrupt myself, as my mom can say. I started to hearing Merciful Fate.
Oh yeah. I used to listen to them too, man.
King Diamond thing, then Death. Then I started to evolve in this style of music. Then I started listening to Carcass, and then I started to hearing to actual guitar players when I started listening to Megadeth. Because pretty much every Megadeth player has a solo project or an album or something that's pretty much like a must after they get out of Megadeth, right?
Yeah.
Only Marty Friedman that actually made pretty much everything during and throughout, and I was really excited about that. I remember being really into Glenn Drover. When somebody gave me as a gift the Metalusion record, and then I was able to actually listen pretty much everything, and then I got to your instrumental record, right? And I remember that the first time I hear The Butcher, man, that song is insane.
That song is insane, dude. That song's got everything plus the kitchen sink in it.
That's right. Because I'm a really huge fan of 80s and 90s slashers. Yeah. So everything that has a butcher, being butch, stabbed, slayed, or something like that.
Check it out. You know what the easiest part of the butcher is? The guitar solo. That's part of the song. Ironically enough, the main guitar solo in that song is all straight up alternate pick stuff. And I've been doing that for years, man. So that's like a piece of cake. The rest of the song is harder than the solo. Because
the main riff, it goes everywhere.
Yeah. The main verses and pre-choruses and stuff like that. It's like 4-note per string and multiple tapping and just like the most insane stuff ever. When it comes time for the solo, that's where I get to breathe a little bit.
Then I'm gonna take a nap and relax a while.
Do this alternate pick solo. It's gonna be my breather, and I'll be back in a minute now. Talking about that real quick, that was my intention with that instrumental album. My intention was to record the most intense guitar record ever heard. That was my goal, at least. Whether I've done that or not, I'm not really sure, because that's always debatable. But that was my goal. It wasn't to, make listeners want to sing and dance or like hum a melody or whatever. It was just the most ferocious thing you could ever hear, and that was my goal. You know what I mean? So, because a lot of people, everybody's always got something to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, oh, Rusty can't bend, Rusty can't do this, or Rusty can't, it's like, whatever, man. If you take it, I can always tell when somebody's actually listened to my music by their comments. And usually half the time it's like, oh, well, I saw this one lick he did on an instructional website. Yeah, he can't bend. Well, there was no bending in that example.
So I'm going to show you this alternate picking one. Nah, man, this guy sucks. He can do bends, right? On his alternate picking video.
Yeah. And whenever I hear somebody say feeling, I know exactly what they mean. It's like,
yeah.
Nobody ever said, hey, man, B.B. King can't play fast. He only plays slow. Wham. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always say that, so in order to compensate, right? To do the compensation.
Yeah. well, people can't play fast. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It's
well-
a different style of music. Why does it matter? You know, listen to what you like, and don't listen to what you don't like. You know what I mean? If you don't
Exactly,
it,
yeah.
so go. My biggest advice that I can give anybody is go where you want to be. Don't go where you don't want to be. You know what I mean? Surround yourself with the things that you like, not with the things you don't like. You know what I mean? So when you're surrounded with the things you like, you don't have anything bad to say. You know what I mean? Because you're where you want to be. You know, it's like, you know, I appreciate the fact that everybody's got an opinion. It's valuable, you know, but it is what it is. It's an opinion. That's objective.
Exactly. It doesn't actually mean anything. It's just a point of view. It goes from
Right.
one people's.
I think you said it best when you said it doesn't actually mean anything, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. I always come across that kind of thing because and I was pretty sure that you do too, right? Because if I play fast, man, you are the mayor of playing fast town, man. Okay, so you have videos dedicated to pretty much teaching and everything dedicated to building your technique and develop as a more well-rounded player, right? And some people, it's tough, man, because some people just don't see it that way. It's like, I want to play like this because that's the way that I want to be here. That's the way that I want to hear myself. It's not for you. It's not like a gift.
Yeah, that's true, man, because when I'm writing stuff, if I'm first and foremost not happy with it, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If I don't like it, it doesn't matter who likes it. You know what I mean? I have to be happy with what I'm doing. Otherwise, I won't feel good about it. You know, if you don't feel good about your playing and your recording and whatever you're doing, it doesn't really matter because you can get praise. I mean, it's like if you buy into the praise, right? If you have people around you telling you every day you're great, and then you start to believe that, you know what I mean? That's where you lose, right?
Exactly.
You have to stay grounded because it doesn't matter what anybody says about my playing. I still hear myself play. You know what I mean? I can still hear myself, even though you might think I'm great or whatever. You know, maybe you think I suck. Either way, whether you like it or you don't, I still hear myself, and I know when I'm playing well, and I know when I'm not playing well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what anybody says. You know, so you have to stay grounded with that too. You know.
Yeah, it's like that part of I don't know. This is pretty much like a stupid addition to the conversation, but that part of Rocky 2 when Apollo is training, but it has it has like a crowd tape.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Apollo, Apollo, like he's number one, but he's training alone, man. And at some point, I think people think that shredders we practice like that, like we practice scales, and it sounds horrible, but in our minds, it's just like.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we always get thousands and thousands of people at our clinics. I'm pretty sure that's
You know,
yeah,
that's
because
funny. That's a funny analogy. I learned this very early on. The very first time I played live was in a high school talent show, and it was a packed auditorium. I mean, there were people standing in the aisles and stuff. It was that full. It was weird, high school talent show, right? But for whatever reason, it was packed, and it was my first time to play live. And I played Eruption, and I played the guitar solo to Revelations Mother Earth by Ozzy with Randy Rhoads playing guitar, obviously. And I noticed when I was playing that when I would be doing the most challenging stuff, that people had this kind of glazed over look. And then I would hit the low E string and take the whammy bar and go, and people would go, you know, it's like I knew right from that moment that I was in trouble for the rest of my life. You know, that's what people respond to. Well, hell, I can give my guitar to anybody, and you can do a dive bomb. You know what I mean?
exactly.
The most impressive musical thing that I'm doing is not what's impressive. It's the sound of a string going. It's like, whoa. That's what I'm up against. All right.
That's where the money's at.
You know, I'm just, man, dive bombs. That's where it's at, bro.
Well, I've seen many.
I'm working on dive bombs. That's it, man.
Yeah, I'm doing my dive bomb record right now. Yeah. Yeah, God, that exactly. And then one guy will say, I don't really like the singer.
That's right. I'll be playing at all the local dives. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And well, going back to the question I asked you, how do you feel about the new era of metal, the new era of guitar players?
Well, it's interesting. I like a lot of the music, but I can't say that there's anybody out there that's really doing anything that I haven't already heard before from a lead guitar perspective. I mean, there's some really cool rhythmic stuff going on, and there's a couple of guys out there that really got their chops really well together. But again, you got to remember that I'm a lot older than these dudes, and I come from the era of Shrapnel Records and Sean Lane and Alan Holdsworth and Al Di Meola and guys like that, and that's just hard to stand up against. You know what I mean? Again, because it's like, I don't care how fast you can play, what are you doing with it? You know what I mean? So unless I hear somebody that's like outdoing one of those guys that I mentioned, or doing something just uniquely different that nobody's heard before, which is very hard to do, it's hard to be impressed, you know? But I think there's a lot of great bands and a lot of great songwriting and stuff like that going on. I'm impressed with a lot of that stuff. I mean, I dig some of Jason Richardson's stuff. I like some of what Tosin's doing here and there. I mean, he's the kind of leading the ground, leading the forefront with that whole thing with the low 8 string and the slap and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. But I mean, again, then there's guys like Scotty Michaud. If you've heard of Scott Michaud, this dude's been doing all the slap stuff since the, I don't know, the 90s, and there's nobody that can touch him or even come close to the level of ferociousness this guy does that stuff at. And so if you haven't heard of Scotty Michaud, check him out, dude. He can do the slap stuff, and there's nobody that can even come close to it. And that's been out. I mean, it's been here forever. But it's just kind of like tapping. You know, when Eddie Van Halen came out with tapping, Eddie wasn't the first guy to do it. I tell you, a great thing to do is get on YouTube and look up this video. It's called "Eddie Van Halen Didn't Invent Tapping."
Yeah, there's a guy from the 60s like tapping on an acoustic guitar.
All 4 fingers and doing melodies and all this stuff. And when Eddie came, he's doing 1 finger tapping, it set the world on fire and set a new standard and set the guitar world on its ear. Yet, it's, you know, that's 1 finger when this dude was doing all this stuff on a nylon string acoustic with 4 or 8 fingers, you know. So it's, you know, I think that's more of a timing or generational thing. So, I mean, if that guy was around today, he'd be a legend.
Yeah, exactly. He'll have a huge Instagram and people calling him that has no feel. And everything we praise and cheer ourselves for. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You can play all that you're doing with 8 fingers with 1 finger and more feeling.
That's a huge one. Everything that you are doing, B.B. King can play it with 1 finger. Come on. That's physically impossible.
Yeah, I think Yngwie said it best when he said more is more and less is less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Man,
there's a quote up here that I have from Al.
Okay.
It's a bunch of bullshit. Every time guitarists say that 1 note says so much more than 100. You know, I mean, I think that's... Look, I have this thing up.
That's poetry right there.
Check it out, and I've actually got it signed as well. Al signed it for me. There it is, right there, man.
Okay, that's... Whoa.
Signed by Al.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's awesome. And you know what? Al can get away with it because he's Al Di Meola.
Yeah,
he's said that in an interview. I'd get, you know, raked over the coals, but
that's right. Well, look at that hair.
Right. Yeah. You call up Al and tell him that. Yeah, you get your ass kicked.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. Let me ask you another thing that's quite away from metal itself. But what do you listen that it isn't metal, but I mean like pop kind of thing, or more like a cheesy type music, I guess.
Cheesy type music. Well, I mean, if it's something I like, I wouldn't think it was cheesy, but you know.
Okay.
But I mean, I like a lot of stuff. I mean, I like Rihanna. I listen to a lot of. Not a lot, but I like some of her stuff. Let me just open up my iTunes here. I mean,
well, that's cheesy, man. That's cheesy.
Yeah, that's cheesy, right? It is cheesy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I like that's cheesy. I guess it's cheesy, maybe, you know. But if you like it, it can't be cheesy, right? I mean, I like 70s disco. I like funk. I love funk, man. I could see myself playing in a funk band with a horn section and stuff like that, man.
Well, yeah, I will pay. I will pay to see that. You will be carrying your chair, right?
No, not for funk, man. I'll be standing up.
Oh, okay.
With the Strat clean. With
you mean feeling and everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'll finally be
Yeah.
playing with feeling. You know.
Yeah, well, I love to see that.
So let's see. I've got a playlist here on in my iTunes thing here. Let's see, where's it at? Bear with me 1 second. Let's see. Let's see. Well, speaking of newer bands, I've ran across one of my playlists that's got newer stuff in it. And not necessarily every one of these bands are newer, but this is some of the modern metal stuff that I like. I like Board of Osiris. I like a lot of their stuff. I've recently discovered Gojira.
Okay.
I know they're not a new band, but
No.
man, they've got an album called Magma that I just absolutely love. They take their music someplace that I wouldn't expect it. You know what I mean? They go, it's like you're doing this one groove and all of a sudden it goes like left field, man. It goes somewhere else. It's like, wow, it's super cool. It's like, wow, they just went there. Holy cow. You know what I mean? So I like Gojira a lot. Let's see. I've always been a huge Meshuggah fan. They're not new by any means. I like some of the After the Burial stuff. I played on one of their albums. So I've got After the Burial in this playlist. I got some Animals as the Leaders in here. I got some of the Aristocrats, which that's not modern metal, but it's great stuff. There's some Veil Maya in here. I've got some of this band called Unprocessed. They do some pretty cool stuff. Unearth, obviously I dig them, but they've been around for a little while. Scar Symmetry is badass. Again, they're not a new band, but they happen to be in this playlist. So I've always liked As I Lay Dying. Big fan of those guys. Anyway, that's in that list. I'm trying to find the cheesy list for you.
Okay. The not cheesy list.
Right, yeah. Love Symphony X, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Soilwork, those guys are awesome. I'm looking for the not cheesy list. I can't seem to find it. It's buried within all this other not cheesy stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's not a gram of cheese around there.
No, man. But I do have some cheese picks. Swiss picks.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask you what kind of picks do you use, because everything of your playing, it's pretty precise, pretty exact, so I'm pretty sure that you call them and pretty much get them built and chop your pick, like Swiss cheese or...
Yeah, it's actually an interesting story. Pete, the guy that owns Swiss Picks, this has been several years ago now. This was like when we were recording the first Day of Reckoning album. Pete messaged me on Facebook and said, hey man, I'm gonna send you some pics. And I was like, all right, cool. So he sent me some pics and I got them, and it was the original Swiss pick. It didn't have this kind of tip on it. It was like the regular Fender kind of round pick. And at the time I was using another brand pick that had more of this kind of tip on it. And I told Pete, I said, look, I said, it's cool, but I use a much heavier pick because I use a 2.0 pick, you know what I mean? And I said, the pick that I use has more of a little bit of a point, not a lot. And he's like, okay, well, we don't really make that right now. And I was like, all right, cool, man. Well, thank you for sending your picks out. I appreciate you doing that. And like almost a year to the date later, he messages me and he says, dude, I made this pick for you. Where are you at? Because he was at NAMM and he thought I was going to be there. And that was just happened to be the year that I didn't go to NAMM. And he was like, well, I made this pick for you. Let me send it to you. So he sent me the pick, and it looked just like this one. But it was made out of a different material called Durolin, and the Durolin material is really cool as well. But I wanted a pick that had a little bit more attack to it, and I worked with Pete and kept trying to get Pete to make it, and he was kind of going, well, man, if you don't like the picks, dude, you don't have to endorse them. And I was like, well, dude, I'd like the pick, but can we try a different material? And he kind of skated around it for a little bit, which I always tease him about. And it was fair enough, because it's not cheap to do this stuff. So he's, he finally did it, right? And the day he got the pick back, he calls me up and goes, oh my God, these picks are so awesome. This sounds great. The pick slides off the string like glass. And he's just raving about it. And I was like, see, man, you should listen to me a long time ago. So these
you could have made millions.
yeah, right. So anyway, this is the original one. This is the sharp cheddar. And then we have the nuclear cheddar, which is this one right here, this like fluorescent green, whatever.
Okay, that's nice.
We've got a black one like this guy.
Well, a bunch of cheese.
Yeah, it's a lot of cheese, man. And then we've got this guy that's newer. That's more
okay.
real. That's the new one.
Yeah, that's aggressive. You can stab someone.
Yeah. So I've got these are my signature picks with Swiss picks. So, if you want to pick fast, buy my pick, Swiss picks.
Yeah, exactly. Bulletproof.
That's right.
Well, let me go ahead and ask you right now. Sorry.
Not cheese proof or rat proof, you know what I mean? You get those holes in there, whatever.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. They have holes.
Those holes are actually for speed. They make you play faster.
Yeah, because the air goes through them, right? Yeah.
You get cheese filters. Yeah.
How much technology, man. And let me ask you about the brands that you endorse right now. Let's go ahead while you dip on your not cheesy list of music. Let's go ahead and talk about your guitar, because that's a huge thing.
Sure, man. Let's do it. What would you like to know about this guitar?
Well, pretty much.
That'll help, maybe. Let me see. The light switch is on here somewhere. Maybe that helps.
Great.
Light on this. Okay, so this is it, man. This is the Rusty Cooley Ormsby RC1, and
wow.
It's the evolution of my guitar playing, really. All the things that make this thing special. I mean, first of all, you know, it's got a super thin neck, right? And as far as the neck dynamics go, the neck is really thin, which is super important to me, because the thinner the neck is, you can reach around and you have more stretching ability. If a super fat neck is going to shorten your finger length, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this allows you for easier playing, and I mean, who wants to play with a neck that's like a 2x4 or a baseball bat sawn in half? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, some guys do, but that's not for me. So that's pretty important. I always play with the super tall frets, so it's essentially like playing a scalloped fretboard without actually playing a scalloped fretboard.
But you have a scallop frets, right?
Partial. So,
yeah.
So I don't know how well you can see this, but let me see. It's hard to see. There you go.
Yeah.
There you can see kind of there. So it kind of it starts kind of like here and goes up a little bit and then comes right back down. So this is really cool because it's hard to do a partial scallop on a guitar and make it feel right. But when you're playing this guitar, you don't even notice that these are really scalloped. It's such a subtle difference, you know, because it eases you into it and eases you back out of it. And the benefits of that are, you know, it's just easier string bending and vibrato. And the reason I play with tall frets to begin with is because when I play, I don't want to feel my fingers hitting the fretboard. So when you play this guitar, it's your fingers against the strings, against the frets. Your fingers are never going to slam into the fretboard. You know what I mean? Which does create the ability to play with multiple levels of touch to a degree. You know what I mean? Because if you were a blues guitar player and all you do is play your guitar with a death grip, well, you're going to have a hard time playing my guitar because you can't squeeze the neck like that when you play this guitar. I mean, you can dig in on it when you want to dig in, but if your entire touch is one dynamic, then you're going to have a hard time because you're going to make every chord sound like it's out of tune if you squeeze that hard. You know what I mean? And squeezing that hard to begin with is like pointless anyway, because it's almost, you know, the amount of energy that it takes to make one note sound is not very much. You know, if you've ever just taken your guitar and went like this and just laid your finger on the string and seen how much actually it takes to make a note sound, it's like almost nothing to make a note sound. And that's the thing that I try to get across to my beginner students. You know, it's like, you know, when you're putting the death grip on this G chord, you don't need to. It takes just very minimal effort. So anyway, this guitar is touch sensitive, essentially. You know, when you play this guitar, all you got to do is touch it, and it's going to make a note sound. You know what I mean? So the partial scallops are really cool. It just adds to the smooth feel for a nice vibrato and bending. And it's got 27 frets on it, man. You know?
Yeah. What's the scale?
The low B side is 26.2.
Okay.
The high E side is 25.5. So it's a very subtle band fret. And the I think this is the first guitar ever to have a fan fret with a Floyd Rose. Okay, because on a fan fret guitar you have to have a straight fret somewhere.
That's right.
If it doesn't have a straight fret, the bridge is essentially the straight fret, if I'm explaining that correctly. So if I'm not, sorry, Perry, forgive me. Anyway, But Perry Ormsby, that's the owner of Ormsby Guitars.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, and I've got to say, man, Perry's an amazing dude. He's gone fearlessly into this. Anything that I suggested, he's like, yeah, we can do that. You know,
Whoa.
I've never had that kind of response from any guitar company ever. Nobody's ever said we can do that right out of the gate. It's like, yeah, we can do that. Sure, man. Yeah, let's do that. Because initially I wasn't going to go into this first signature model with the 27 fret neck. I told him, I said, eventually I'd like to have a guitar where I can play all 24 frets on it without with the feeling like you're at the 5th fret. So essentially the cutaway on this guitar is so massive that when I'm at the 5th fret, it's no different than playing at the 24th or 27th fret.
That's huge.
You know what I mean? I don't have the, you know, there's the neck joint, the pocket, man. It's like, there you go. This fret right here, this is 26 right here.
Yeah, huge access.
Right. So I don't ever run into the heel, the neck joint. That's never a problem to play any of these frets. You know, I can play as comfortably right here as I can play right here. And that's always been an issue with guitars in the past. You know,
Yeah.
You get up so far and then you run into the body. Well, not with this guitar. We've eliminated that. And so initially that was my comment was like, yeah, I'd eventually like to do this. And Perry's like, well, why do you want to wait? Let's do that now. I was like, oh, wow, I wasn't used to getting that response. You know, so
Yeah.
that's amazing right there. So, you know, and then the headstock on this guitar, I mean, you know, that's like icing on the cake. I mean, how cool is that, right? Obviously, this doesn't have anything to do with playability. It just has to do with aesthetics. It's just super cool. So
Yeah, that's a huge coolness.
and the locking nut is handmade by Perry Ormsby. This is his design, and he built this thing from scratch because nobody makes a locking nut for a fan fret except for Perry. So that's super cool. It's one of a kind. Again, the neck joint is the width of it is super wide, so you don't ever run into it, no matter what kind of stretch you're doing. The depth is all the way there, so you can access all your frets. You can do the widest stretch you want. And it's all sculpted out here and back, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's all super smooth. You're never going to run into anything. So it's built for speed and performance, man. This is a really cool feature here too. The input jack, where it's plugged in, it's kind of hidden. You don't see it from the front, right? You don't see where it plugs in. So see how that's made?
Yeah, it looks really amazing, man. That's some serious David Copperfield kind of magic.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, I use EMG pickups, which I also endorse. I'm an EMG artist. I use the 85.7 in the bridge and the 707 in the neck.
Okay.
I use a Floyd Rose low pro tremolo. Specifically, it has to be a low profile to keep the tremolo, the fine tuners out of the way. I can't play on a guitar with a regular Floyd Rose because the fine tuners are where I put my hand when I pick.
Okay.
I try to play on a regular Floyd Rose, I'd have to like do something like this to get my hand out of the way of the fine tuners. So this guitar has a low profile tremolo on it, and we also, when we designed the guitar, we designed it so the neck is deeper into the body, so that when you pick, the tremolo doesn't sit up out of the body, so to speak. So it doesn't matter if I'm on this string or this string, you don't all of a sudden get down here to the low side of the neck and then fall off. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter where I'm at, what string, it's the same level. I don't ever have to drop down. Most guitars have the tremolo is sitting up high out of the body. Like if you look at like, you know, well, actually that guitar doesn't have the bridge on it, never mind. I only have one guitar with an old school Floyd. That's actually, let me see. Yeah, this guitar. Here, this is the one we were talking about earlier that me and my dad built. This is my first guitar.
Oh, okay. That's...
As you can see, this guitar has an original Floyd Rose on it, you know, with the fine tuners, right? See how high this guitar sits up out of the body?
Yeah.
Right? So when you're playing on a guitar with a bridge like this, your picking is cool, and then you get over here to the 6th string and it's like you fall off because now it's like way down here, right? So with my guitar, we've designed that out of the guitar. So it doesn't matter what string you're on, it's never gonna be off balance. Your hand is always gonna be the same. If I'm on the 7th string or if I'm on the 1st string, nothing ever changes for my picking fluidity. It just stays the same all the way across. So all my guitars are primarily made out of mahogany with a 1/4-inch maple cap. So the maple cap is not like a veneer, little thin wafer. You know what I mean? It's a 1/4-inch cap piece of maple, and then the rest of it's solid mahogany. And you know, put a kill switch on it for fun.
Yeah, that I was asking. Then you have a volume and then switch.
Yeah, I mean, keep it simple, right? I don't use, when I play my guitars, my tone's always on 10, right? So why have a volume knob? I mean, a tone knob, right?
Yeah.
So that's one less thing I've got to fool around with when I'm playing live. It's like, you know, oh, I accidentally turned the tone knob down, and all of a sudden I'm playing live and it sounds like crap, and I don't know why. Oh, oops. You know, there, you know, remove any possibilities or room for error. So I don't use the tone knob, so why have it? Wire it on 10. You know
Exactly. And the fretboard is ebony.
Oh yeah, yeah, ebony fretboard. The inlays glow in the dark. They're lumalays. I can't tell.
Ooh.
They glow in the dark, which is just a super cool feature that I think is just fun.
How about the weight?
The weight, they've got some weight to it. I like my guitars to be heavy personally, but not every one and not every piece of mahogany is the same. So some of them might be a little bit lighter than others, but in general, it's gonna have some weight to it. You know, and I like that personally. If the guitar's too light, it doesn't feel right. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like a toy or something.
Guitars, but I do, man. Because when it's heavy, I know that it's got the tone, man. So, you know, it's just a three-way switch too. You know, keep it simple, on, off, one volume knob. And I also set these things up specifically, you know, where I can get my pinky in between the whammy bar, and so I can turn the volume off, on and off quick. I can switch the switch quick. I mean, you know, designing a guitar, there's a lot more goes into it than you think. Everything from volume knob placement to the relationship of the three-way switch in relationship to the volume knob, in relationship to the pickup and the strings. Every one of those little things is super important in the overall playability of the guitar. So
Exactly.
Thought has to be put into every one of those things. And I've been doing this for such a long time. I mean, you go back to the orange guitar, you know, that's where it started, you know, really.
Yeah, you swap in pretty much everything in order to get your way around it. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way when it comes to positioning of things, because I always explain to some of my students that I actually rather to have just one guitar that I use a lot, and trying to build a relationship with it and trying to feel comfortable and just play with it and know how it works and everything, right? So. And I was explaining, since I switched from one Schecter to the other, because I'm with Schecter as an artist. So the one of the biggest changes that I felt, it was that the switch on the previous one, it was in here and it was a blade, and this is a toggle switch and it's in here. So this is a split switch, split knob. So these knobs they tend to be quite softer, because if you just so I had to put this plastic in here in order to doesn't move around at all. So, and then you just have the switch.
So check this one out. This one's a little bit different. It's mahogany. Actually, this body is not mahogany. I don't remember what they made. They made this one for me as a surprise. So I don't remember what the wood is on the back, but there's still, the top is Buckeye Burl, and it just looks super sick, man.
Yeah, it's rosewood, right?
The fretboard?
Yeah. It's brownier? No. Whoa.
Fretboards. Oh yeah, see that?
Yeah, it's so cool, man.
Yeah, and then on the back it's got, you know, if you can see it, I don't know, it's engraved into that, you know. Can you see that or no? So anyway,
I do see something.
Yeah. As the lighting's not right, but yeah, it says RC1 Ormsby. Rusty Cooley.
Wow.
And this guitar, it's super cool. So like, you look at the headstock. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's like right around the sides here. It's got different layers of wood stuff. I don't know, just fine details. It's hard to see with the Skype camera, but super cool. It's like a racing stripe run down the back of the neck. Super fast guitars. I also use inverted strap locks. So
okay.
I have this, they're inverted into the guitar, and I also keep my strap here for a specific reason. When I practice sitting like this with a classical footrest, right? So my guitar's here. So that's great, and I will play when I'm standing up. My guitar's pretty much in the same spot, but if your strap pin's here, like most guitars, when you stand up, the guitar will swing this way.
Yeah.
So by putting the strap pin here, no matter if I'm standing or sitting, the guitar's gonna be in the same place.
Whoa.
So everything down down to strap lock placement has a huge impact on how the guitar plays from standing to performing, you know. And it takes a lot of effort and time and you know, you have to invest time into thinking about this stuff, you know, and experimenting with it. And I'll show you a good experiment. Like if we go back to this guitar, where it all started, this guy.
Okay.
This is how many times I adjusted trying to find the right place for the strap pin.
Yeah.
Here, all of these, this part broke off in a gig, never found it again, you know. So every last detail makes a difference to pickup placement. How close the pickup is, the bridge pickup is to the bridge, how close the neck pickup is to the neck. You know, all of that, it goes into it. So, you know, Ormsby's my number one thing, man. I've got my signature models, those are coming out hopefully at the end of this month, but things have been delayed a little bit because of, you know, COVID. Anyway, but, you know, and I use the EMG pickups and I use SIT strings. I have my own signature set of strings with them.
Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen those. What can you say about them?
But they're great. It's, SIT stands for Stay in Tune, and that they're great strings, man. I've been with those guys for a while. Super helpful and great strings, really. I mean, you just got to try them. It's my own personal set of string gauges, which is basically a set of 9s with a 60 for a B string.
Okay.
You know, my guitar's down a half step, so by playing the low B string with a 60, it kind of brings some of the tension back in with the Floyd Rose tremolo.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And then my signature Swiss picks, I use those, and then I also have endorsements with Idea Bench, it's a pedal board company, and Pedal Snake, which Pedal Snake's a great company, man. If you use pedals and a pedal board and stuff like that, it eliminates all the cables and stuff that are on the floor. I mean,
Okay.
you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if you can see this or not, but my pedal board, this is all I have on the floor going to my pedal board.
Okay.
You know, this is all my power for all my pedals.
Okay.
The pedal board's powered by this, and then this is how the cables that come out of this go into the front inputs and then into the effects loop. So my pedal board, there's one cable running to the floor. It's pretty awesome. And I use a Wagner Ubershaw and a ED6505 Plus. Also got a Rev amp over here, the Generator 100P that I'm trying out. I don't know if you see that's the white head over there.
Yeah.
And I also use that little spark up there that
Yeah, I saw you doing the demo and everything. How do you feel about it?
That's a great amp, man. I love that little thing. I mean, you can do anything with it, really. It's great for practicing. You have playback with backing tracks. You can sync it up to your phone or your iPad or whatever, Bluetooth capabilities. You can change all of the presets from the iPad or your phone. You can even talk to it through your phone. You know, you give it commands. You know, and you can play something into it, and it will compose a drum beat and bass track to it, bass line to it, and it will chart it out for you. It's I can't say enough good things about it. It's really great technology. You know, I mean, if I had one of those things when I was a kid or learning, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, come on.
You know?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's an amazing tool.
Yeah, it really is, man. I love that. That little orange amp up there is cool too. I had a student come in the other day, and his dad asked me if that was a toy.
Yeah.
The orange Micro Dark, great amp, man. Dude, I could do a gig on that thing. It's got an effects loop built into it.
Yeah, that's the huge difference with the other one, with the white one, because this one has an effects loop, so you can arrange your effects more wisely.
Yeah, a couple of the other endorsements that I have, I endorse Morley wahs. I use the Tremonti wah a lot. I think it's a great wah. I also use the little Maverick. It's pretty cool. And I also have a Maxon endorsement. I use the OD808 exclusively. Man, it's a great pedal. It's legend. TC Electronics and Radial Engineering. I use their Switchbone. That's the last thing on my pedal board because I always run 2 heads live. So
Okay.
Switchbone will go into the Wagner Ubershaw and then into the PV6505 Plus or whatever else I might be using at the time. And then I use 2 412s and 2 212s usually. That's my small rig.
Oh, okay. Yeah, economy version.
Yeah, that's it. Because when I was in Outworld, I used to use 6 412s. So that was the
Then and then under the influence, you used to,
that was like
I don't know.
something. Yeah, that was awesome, man.
Yeah, that was pretty much like on Child's Play, like 2, when they hunt and there's all the boxes and everything. Yeah, that was amazing. That video was a game changer, at least for me.
Yeah. You know, that's the era that I come from. It's like my singer in my band now is always telling me, oh, you need to, like, let's just get this, and it's all compact, and we got one of these, and you don't need this, and it's like, man, that's great. That's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't look cool, man. It's not
Yeah.
the era of looking at bands like Van Halen and Malmsteen and everybody from that era where you got walls of stacks, man. That's larger than life. That's how I like to bring it, man. You know, I don't want to
Exactly.
got my little amp.
Well, I have this, and then I connect here, and it sounds. Yeah. I remember that I was an opening for Yngwie Malmsteen in El Salvador, and when I got to the stage, well, first of all, I was shocked, right? I was on the same poster and everything. Then I got to the event, to the sound check, and he was doing the sound check. Man, that guy is huge, like physically huge, and he sounds so massive. And by the time I got to do my sound check, I was so overwhelmed by all the Marshalls and the huge wall and the huge pedal board and about 15 guitars that he handles on every show. And then I don't know, man, it was just so exciting. It was at a point of my career that I'm really thankful for it, and then I really got into amplifiers and pedals and analog processing, right? So yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Sorry, hang on one second. I was supposed to have a meeting at 3:30.
Don't worry, man. Sorry that I'm taking so much of your time.
1 second. Let me. Sorry, dude. Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, all right, where were we?
Yeah, well, we were talking about amplifiers and you running everything pretty much with one cable.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's the pedal snake. Jody from Pedal Snake really knows his stuff, and if you're using a pedal board with effects and stuff like that, that's the best way to go, man. I highly recommend anybody and everybody to check it out. So go check out Pedal Snake. It's awesome.
Yeah, we sure will.
Yeah, and then, you know, I think that's primarily the gear. I've recently got a Kemper that I've been messing around with, but since we're not allowed to, for me, all my amplifiers have to pass the loud test. It doesn't matter how good it sounds at home, but if it doesn't sound good live, it's not going to make it to the stage. So I have yet to be able to give the Kemper the loud test yet. So, but at home, it sounds really great. I also have a VHT power amp over there, and there's an Axe Effects in there with that as well. And got some Mesa Boogie cabs, got some Diamond cabs. I got more cabinets in the hallway,
It's always Christmas for you.
Cabs down here, and I just bought a mini fridge. It's a cool fridge.
It's really cool. What are you having there? Do you have beers or?
Nothing yet. I just got it yesterday. I got to plug it in and start getting it chilled. And what you can't see up here on my desk is that I have two systems. I got my PC that I'm working on right now, and then I got a Mac right next to it with another monitor, and use the Focusrite stuff for interfaces. And on the Mac, I've got Cubase set up and Logic Pro, and
That's really cool. I use Cubase and Logic as well. What Focusrite interface do you use?
I got the Scarlett. Yeah, it's the Scarlett 214 or 2i4. That's what it is. I just got it last weekend, so I'm just trying it out. That's the way the PC and the Mac were sharing an interface before. Now they're on their own interface.
Oh, okay. Do you have the third generation, right? The new ones?
I don't know. I bought this one used. I found a good deal on it. I was like, hey, I'll just buy that, So, so I don't know what generation it is. I tell you this much, they're great with tech support, because I wasn't able to get the bundle with it or whatever. So I just emailed them, and they hooked me up with the bundle that comes with it and all that stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they're very cool and very quick to respond. So, thank you, Focusrite. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, they're all. I use Focusrite. I have a 18i8, and they own right now Adam Audio, which is the monitors that I use. So yeah, they're really great. They're really awesome. They're really awesome. Well, that's a lot of gear, man.
Yeah, I like gear. I got a lot of guitars and stuff in here that you can't see all of them. The walls are covered in guitars. It's pretty awesome.
Let me ask you. I always I have always been a huge fan also of your health, because you always look healthy. You always look like you work out a lot. That you sustain a really healthy, nice lifestyle, right?
Yeah,
So
and I try to as much as I can. I was in better shape a few years ago than I am now, but I had an injury to my shoulder that I just couldn't lift. You know what I mean? And since I couldn't lift, you know, I wasn't just going to go do legs all the time. You know what I mean? It looked really weird, right? I got some massive legs, dude. So I had to stop lifting for a while, and you know, and of course, when you stop lifting, then the diet starts to go a little bit. So I'm getting back to it. My shoulder feels a lot better now, so I'm getting back to. I got a home gym here, so I can work out here at the house. I got everything I need. So I'm getting back into it, so I can, you know. I'm not getting any younger, so you know, if I'm not careful, you know, I could get out of shape pretty quick, I assume.
that's right.
But I don't want to find out, you know.
Yeah. Well, you look great. You really look great, man. You look pretty much the same as.
Yeah. So, you know, I just try my best, you know what I mean? Try to eat right and try to eat healthy and try to, you know, you just try to do the right thing, you know, as much as I can. You know, it's a way of life. I mean, I was hitting it hard, dude. I was like working out 5 and 6 days a week, a couple hours a day, shit like that. You know, I was going hard, and when I moved, when I got divorced, I moved into an apartment complex, so I wasn't able to have my home weights and stuff. So I was using some of the stuff at the apartment complex, and man, the machines kind of screwed up my shoulder, the bench press machine. So, and then I was sleeping on it weird. I'd wake up and my arm would be like this, you know. So, that doesn't do good things for you either. So it just was killing me for a while, man. And but anyway, it's behind me now, so it's time to get back in the gym. I love riding. I had a mountain bike. I like to ride as well. Get some good cardio in that way and stuff.
Yeah, so you're really into sport, like physical activities, right?
I like
Sports.
I like to lift. I mean, I'm not a big, you know, I'm not like a football, baseball, soccer kind of guy. I'm, you know, I come from like racing motocross, which was a very physical activity. And if I'm going to work out, I want to lift. I don't want to do, you know, like resistance bands and stuff like that. I want to hit the weights and, you know, want to feel like I'm doing something. And, you know, and I like building. I think it's fun, man. And it's, I think a strong body leans, you know, the combination of a strong body and a strong mind it's just a good, healthy combination, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
How do you feel that? How do you feel that the ages have fallen into your playing? Do you feel any difference, or do you have any recollection of changes?
No, I mean I do. I'm recovering from a hand injury that, fortunately, is not guitar related. Because that would really be awful if it was guitar related. Because if it's a guitar related injury, then I am at risk of re-injuring that hand at some point from the same thing. So exactly what happened, we weren't able to pinpoint exactly how I injured it. It could have been from lifting. It could have been, you know, I was putting in a stone walkway behind my house and some big stones that they're like pavers or whatever. And I did that a couple of summers ago, and it could have been from lifting that stuff, not wearing gloves and just trying to carry too many at once. And what happened is I started noticing a weakness. I started noticing that my third finger on my fretting hand wasn't, to me, the best way I can describe it wasn't firing right. It was like missing. If I go to land on a string, it would miss, or just, you know, something wasn't right. And I thought it was due to me playing steel string acoustic more and playing a telly in standard tuning, because when I would get back on my 7 strings and half step down, it would feel weird, you know what I mean? Because the difference in tuning. So I thought maybe the injury had something to do with that. but it really boils down to it wasn't that. And so I'm recovering from that now. I mean, last year I met with a doctor, and we discovered that the muscles on the left side, the outside of my ring finger, were greatly depleted. So like if you take your hand like this and you pull out, and then you take your hand like this and pull in, my strength pulling in was great. Pushing out was not good with my ring finger. So the muscle had been greatly depleted on this side of the finger, which was causing the inaccuracies. And I did some physical therapy for a few days with the guy, a friend of mine. The doctor is a friend of mine's friend that was in town, and he worked on me while I was here and did some physical therapy. And basically, after the last day of physical therapy, I couldn't use these two fingers. They were almost like paralyzed because there was so much toxic acidity and buildup of, I don't know all the technical words for it, man.
Yeah.
He had words that, anyway.
Yeah, you do guitars, not arms.
Yeah, so the toxicity in my hand, he had to release all of that stuff through all this physical therapy, and my fingers, these guys were like, really, I mean, because there was nothing wrong with my pinky at first. And then after that, it was like, these guys were like paralyzed for about 2 weeks. I didn't teach for a week, and then I started playing slowly again and bringing these fingers back to life. And it's been a process, and it's been very frustrating, but it's also, you know, I'm noticing a lot of improvements as of recently. And things are getting better, but it's pretty rough when you go from playing like that to not being able to play like that, and you don't understand why. You know, it's like, what am I doing wrong? What have I done? You know, what's going on with my hand? That's frustrating. So at the same time, you know, when I started noticing this, also I started noticing a stiffness in my hands. So I don't know if the stiffness is related to age or if it's related to this injury, but my hand is coming back full force, and I'm just gonna ride it and see how it goes. You know what I mean? Just hope for the best. Just stay as healthy as I can, and you know, make sure that I try to spend time warming up. I'm the worst at warming up because I've never in my life had to warm up before. I could always just pick up my guitar and play. And now that I have to warm up because I can't pick up and play that way at the moment, I have to warm up to it. It's really frustrating. So it's hard for me to slow down because I'm not used to going slow.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
It's like imagine if you had to warm up to walk. Wait a minute, I'm waking up in the morning, now I gotta warm up to get out of bed and walk. You know, I mean, that's what it's like to pick up my guitar and have to warm up to play. That's like, I got to warm up to play. It's a weird concept for me because I've never had to warm up. Now, that's not to say that I could just pick up my guitar and play the Butcher even when I was at peak physical condition. There's warm up to a certain extent, you know, you don't just run a marathon, you know, without stretching and things like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're, let's say 70% that it was before warming up, it was a bit higher than what it is right now.
I mean, warm-up was really like me playing a couple of sweeps and a couple of legatos, pentatonics, string skipping things, and, you know, couple minutes, you know what I mean? Then I'm ready to go. You know, because most of the time, like in rehearsals, when I was playing the instrumental stuff live and when I was doing Outworld stuff, you'd walk into rehearsal, it's like plug in your amp and go. There's no warm-up at rehearsals, it's like go.
Yeah.
So, you know, jumping right into the Butcher or Dominion at rehearsals, playing them instrumentally, was like, that was a normal thing, you know? So I was used to that kind of thing. And I practiced so much that it's like, you know, when you play and practice that much, you're at peak physical condition. I don't get to practice and play as much as I did then, but you know, it's all part of life. It's cyclical. So hopefully I'll get back there soon enough. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure you will, man. I'm pretty sure you will.
Man, it'll be back. So I feel good enough that I'm getting ready to start recording videos and stuff like that again. That's why a lot of my appearance online and stuff hasn't been as much as it was, because, you know, now on top of being burnt out, my hand wasn't working right, and it's just like, why am I going to make a video now of what? You know, I have nothing better to show than what I've already done.
Yeah, it's like a step back.
Yeah, so I don't like going backwards. You know, I like to keep going forward. Progress. Let's keep moving forward. Let's not move left to right. Let's move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. I think I have taken so much of your time so far.
Well, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I know that we've been trying to do this for a while.
Yeah, don't worry, man. I know the entire situation. Pretty much, we have to get our hair around of being busy, start focusing on projects, and you have a lot of things going on as usual. That's pretty much one of the things that I admire the most. That you never fall behind. You're always pretty much leading on your sort of way. That not I don't mean leading in the way that you pretty much says what it has to be done in every generation, in every decade or something like that. But you're always doing something, man. Right. You're always keeping yourself up, playing as hard as you possibly can, trying to take the guitar as far as it can possibly be. So I really appreciate it. And to be honest, it had really changed my life. So I'm really happy to finally be able to talk with you and spend, well, 2 hours and 12 minutes talking about pretty much everything from when it comes to your guitar, your skills, your influences, all the way to having your Kemper with a fractal emulation of an amplifier.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. It's nice to be recognized for your efforts.